I can't stop these feelings taking over me. 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 You're feeling me, I hope you're feeling me. You're feeling me, I hope you're feeling me. You're feeling me, I hope you're feeling me. You're feeling me, I can't stop. You're feeling me, I hope you're feeling me. You're feeling, you're feeling me. You're feeling me, I hope you're feeling me. You're feeling, I can't stop. I can't stop. I can't stop. Taking over me. I can't stop. This feeling's taking over me. I can't stop. This feeling's taking over me. I can't stop. You're feeling me. I hope you're feeling me. You're feeling me. I hope you're feeling me. You're feeling me. I hope you're feeling me. You're feeling me. I can't stop. You're feeling me. I hope you're feeling me. You're feeling, you're feeling me. You're feeling me. I hope you're feeling me. You're feeling. I can't stop. I can't stop. I can't stop.
Just hold on. Been to places that I'll never go. Seen some faces that I'll never know. I keep dancing, but it's just for show. Whoa. Look up at the sky full of stars. Close my eyes, I only see the dark. Tell myself I wanna seize the night. Alright, and we walk this road together. You know, still feel like I'm alone. Just hold on, just hold on, just hold on. Just hold hold on. Just hold on.
All right, everybody, welcome to the next episode of the panel, June panel, Beginner's Guide to Ant Keeping. Welcome, Formicast fans, to another episode of Formicast Podcast, your source for everything ant keeping. I am your host, Durka, and today my co-host is not here at the moment, but hopefully JB will show up. He's got some stuff that's going on right now, but I do have an awesome amount of people here with me today. So we're going to go by the list and we're going to announce each of our guests. Say hello from Ants, Ontario. Jay and Dave, go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Hey everybody, this is Ants, Ontario. I'm Dave, and this is my...
I'm good.
I am
Yeah.
so happy to have you guys on. All
Thanks,
right.
buddy.
Yep. And next on the list, we have Aesthetic Ants. Say hello, good to.
I think he's getting a drink.
Wakushi, want to go ahead and go first then?
Yeah, while we're waiting for him. So, hi guys, it's Sid here from Wakushi.
All right. And Poor Mart, say hello, guys.
Hello, hello.
Mike.
Jair walked out.
Oh, he walked out on me. Is that punishment for getting his name wrong that one time?
No, it's the kids were calling him. He's here now. He's here.
I had an emergency with the little ones.
Oh, no worries.
Hello, everybody. Yeah.
All right, Mike MC from Ohio Ant, say hello, good to.
Hello, everybody. I'm glad to be here. Pleasure being a first-time guest here, too, as well as a panelist. So look forward to the podcast.
See, glad to have you. Good old Hood, why don't you say hello, good to? And this time I won't disconnect you.
I'm just seeing if I can make the whole sentence without being kicked out. Wait, yeah, you all know me. I'm Hood. I'm here to cause mischief and mayhem wherever I go.
Yep. And when you said that, my fingers were off the mouse. All right, let's. And good old Aesthetic Ants, are you back? Doesn't sound like it, but he is also here. So, all right, folks. Well, I'm glad that everybody's here. Let's see who is in our. Whoa, there's a lot of people in the chat. We got 13 people watching right now. That's exciting. We got Ants Jr. We got Noel. We got Stein. Good old Stein. We got Mark, and I'm sure we got more people in there as well. So if you're in there, there we go. We got more people. Sweet. All right, make sure you guys hit that like button and make sure you share on over your social media. Let's get people in here. This is exciting. We had one person who left our Discord, which is really sad. So I'm gonna reply with a GIF, as I like to do, and drives my people on my Discord a bit nuts when they see me replying with GIFs. So all right, so yesterday we did the very first June panel for this. We did part 1, and it was a very long episode. If you haven't listened to it yet, definitely check it out. It was really good, really informative. But we're gonna end up cutting it a little bit this episode. We're not gonna make it as long. So we're going to start with weekly updates, but we're going to start with people that haven't done theirs yet. So Ants Ontario, if you guys want to go ahead and talk about what you guys have been up to this past week, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Okay, I guess I'll take the stand here. So for the last week, we've been trying to push out our social media, Facebook groups, our Instagram, and trying to push our store a little bit more. We are still very, very new. We don't have a whole lot to offer other than the little bits of advice, but we primarily are in queen sales anyways right now. So that's kind of where we've been, trying to capture and have as many queens as we can possibly get available.
That's exciting. I wish when it comes to capturing queens and stuff, I kind of wish that we could send queens back and forth between Canada and the US, but hopefully here soon some stuff will start to loosen up, because I have let's see, 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11. I got 11 super small colonies now that I need to sell because I caught so many during the fall, and a lot of them are just starting to start to have their colonies and stuff, or their workers. But all right, Ants Hood, what about you when it comes to your weekly updates? What you been up to?
Just busy with work mostly. My aunt's side of life, though, I've been doing some drunken buying off of the internet again. I need to keep off the internet when I've been drinking because I keep buying ants, and I've got a couple of more colonies coming my way, including yellow crazy ants, shield ants,
Ooh.
and another one which I'm not going to talk about yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Mike MC from Ohio Ants. What about your week? What you been up to?
Yeah, well, thank you. You can call me Mike Mick. I know we don't know
Okay.
around this. That's part of my last name, but I
Okay.
can be an MC if you prefer. I be an MC. That's okay. We can rock that as well. So,
Sweet.
one of the things that I'm really focusing on this week is earlier this year I caught a bunch of Penelopeus imparis, which are the false honeypot ants or the winter ants here in Ohio. I got 37 of them, so quite a lot of them that we have, and it's just been in the past week and a half that a lot of the first naniticks have been coming out. So getting them all fed, getting to the point where I'm sure that they're viable colonies, and then a good portion of our community is to make sure that other people in our community can get those ants. So getting those ready and prepared to go out and either sell them or give them to deserving community members is part of what I've been doing this week.
Sweet. I have a question for you then, Mike. Do you have a permit for that, for like shipping like across state lines?
So we are not shipping across state lines. That's one of the really nice things about our community is I would say 80 to 85% of our community members are in Ohio, and we're very straight up front and straightforward with talking about making sure that we are not shipping ants across state lines and that we keep them internally. I think that's what makes our community a little bit different than a lot of others on the internet.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, I appreciate you making sure you keep it to your state. I do get my ants from Tar Heel Ants if I ever buy any. There is a new store, Ants Emporium. I haven't done much research on him or whoever that is, but I just sent him a message actually earlier today. Basically telling him it's pretty exciting to see his store grow. That's pretty cool. But yeah, so we got some questions from me to you guys. I kind of cut that down just a little bit. So we'll start with Ants Ontario. If I was a brand new ant keeper, what advice would you have for me?
I'll chime in on this as the newer of the pair for Ontario. The advice I'd give is alone. Let them there, and once you invest, that's the number one. The number two would be ask questions. They're all over. We have one in Ontario. There's 7 of us together for the last Facebook Ontario. We link each other all the time. Ask questions. We've got a lot of it. That's where I would start.
Okay. Does anybody else have any advice for any new ant keepers or for me per se?
Well,
I would
Go ahead.
I would just touching base on the same thing that Jade said. There was just leave them alone. Don't check on them all the time once they've been caught. Give them their privacy. Give them their space. You stress them out, they will not last.
That's true. All right. What are 5 things an ant keeper should have on their person at all times or in their supplies? I'll let anybody answer that question that hasn't answered that question from last time.
Straight up, I think, hands down, when you become an anter, I've been an ant keeper for, I don't know, 5 years, 6 years, for a while now. I've been into it. And one of the things that you're going to hear it time and time again, you got to have a snap cap, a test tube, a vial, something to keep your ants in. This is the same thing that, they talked about yesterday. It's, you have to have it. It has to be there. And that's just for, collecting your queens and getting that position where you're ready to see those queens, especially if you haven't found your first queen, because you never know when you're going to run across it. And when you first find that first queen, it's always so difficult. It's so hard to dive in there. But as soon as you get the knack for what a queen looks like, it's really identifiable really quickly. And I can't tell you how many times I've been outside literally just talking to people outside, and a queen lands on your shoulder and you're just scooping it up. People look at you weird, but it's totally worth it to have everything that you need with you to at least collect that queen, and then follow up after you get home with it.
Mm-hmm. Of course. Um, I always keep like 2 or 3 snap caps on me at all times, even at work, because you never know. Like 2 of my Campanadas queens had caught like literally last month. Like the first time I saw one, I was like, I don't have a snap cap vial. Like, what am I supposed to do? And I kind of just improvised and used a water bottle. But like, other than that, like now I carry them on me the whole, like literally the whole entire day. Even if I'm not at work, I always carry snap cap vials on me. If you could write a letter to yourself when you first started ant keeping, what would it say? Would you encourage yourself in any way on your journey or give any advice to yourself?
We have a quiet group here, so I'll go ahead and chime in as well. I think one of the things that I would really encourage myself, again, I've been ant keeping for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
but really a lot of the big portion of the ant keeping for me has just been the community around it. It's a growing hobby. In the past 2 or 3 years, it's really grown immensely, and we've seen a lot of growth, specifically in younger people. But one of the things that I would probably write to myself is just be patient and read a lot. There is a lot of information out there. There's a lot of good information. There's a lot of kind of hazy information. But the thing that's really exciting about keeping for myself is it's a hobby where not everything is really known. It's a growing hobby. You're able to dive in and you can actually contribute to things, whether that be on a scientific basis or just in your local community or your local state or your local education spaces. There is lots of opportunity to do different things with ants. And the really cool thing is they're in your backyard. You don't have to go far to do all of these. And there's, like in Ohio alone, I think there's upwards of 120 known species that are here, but people are still finding new species, or new species are migrating or being introduced into our area. So there is plenty of things to do and plenty of time to do it, and don't get frustrated.
Yeah.
And just to touch on that, I would just say the same thing. Like, make sure, don't be scared to ask questions. Join Facebook groups, join groups, and ask questions. Read and research. Look things up. Watch videos. It's all out there.
Yeah, sure is. Anybody else want to chime in on this question about writing a letter to yourself?
I think it would probably be along the same lines as the other 2 chaps. Is research. Do research on everything. I think I got disheartened when I first got a non-native species because it was a Fidoli something. I can't remember what it was now. But either way, I did everything wrong. I got the nest set up wrong. I got the climate conditions wrong. I just assumed they'll be like Lagus nigers, where you just leave them be and they crack on with it. And I think that if I wrote back to myself, it would be research. If you're going to buy an ant, research it first and then make the commitment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if I were writing a letter to myself, it would be, hey, calm down. Don't stress the ants out. Leave them alone. Even like my pogos, when I first got them, like I accidentally like spilled too much water in their nests, and they like started to like freak out, and I started worrying, and I was like, so I kind of like I covered them up and I waited for a little bit, and I came back to them and they were like perfectly fine, and it's like my fastest growing colony right now, and they're about to boom in population, which is just amazing to watch them. But all right, so we're gonna move on.
So one more thing about that,
Yes.
because like that was kind of the same yesterday, where we repeat a little bit these standard things like be patient, do your research, don't stress your colonies out as much. But I think that for someone who, because this is for beginners of course, and for the viewers that are beginners, what does it mean to not stress your colony, right? Because we can say don't stress them, but yeah, how actually do you stress them? For example, I have Master Barbara's colony on a wall shelf, and I don't look at them, but they get stressed every day. And you might wonder, hey, why do they get stressed? But every time I shut my door, the vibrations go through the wall, and the colony can feel that, and the queen starts running around. So, yeah, I think we should specify a little bit more, like, do your research. But yeah, where do you start? What is a good source? What is a good forum to actually research? I don't know the answer myself, to be honest. I have just one guy in the Discord server, which I ask everything, and he knows everything. So that's my sort of research. But yeah, don't know if the others can help me. What are good sources for research, or
YouTube.
where do you look?
YouTube. Always look at YouTube. It's my first port of call whenever I want to look up a species. One, because if you're making a channel on it, if you're making a video about it, the odds are you know about them and you're knowledgeable and you know what you're talking about. And then I can move on with the research from there. So then I'd go on to like look at any papers if I wanted to go that far into it. I'd look for papers and stuff like that, or anything that's written up about them where you can get their information, their behaviour, kind of that kind of stuff is what I do. That's how I do it. But I think YouTube's the biggest tool ever when it comes to ants.
Yeah, I do it personally, but I would love to hear from Boromore and Wakushi about this. I usually look at, let's say, I just bought Campagnol's Discolor, for example. Then I would look at store sites, because they usually have basic information about them, and that's where I do the research about the species. But yeah, then is that good research or isn't? Because of course that's usually very broad. Like keep them at 60% humidity. What does that even mean, right?
Right.
So yeah, love to hear from Kushi or Poor Maud about that.
Well, I think the important thing to take from used websites, because a lot of the descriptions on websites they don't go into great detail. So I think they just kind of to give rough guides, and even things like humidity. Even having a store, I would still say take descriptions from stores with a pinch of salt. They are more of kind of rough guidelines just to understand the basics of a species. The best thing you can do is, like Ants Hood said, is YouTube and Facebook are unbelievable wealths of information, and I don't think there's better information than to find someone on YouTube who has successfully kept the colony, and subscribe to them, look at their previous videos. You'll see the mistakes they've made, the successes they've made, and I think that's one of the best ways. It's take advantage of this brilliant piece of information that we've got called the internet, because in this day and age it can give you the answer to near enough everything. So I think that's probably the best way to go.
And just to carry on from what Sid just said then, is that I've noticed when retailers, when I do my videos, I like to put, when I introduce them, I do a bit of a care, like the care requirements and stuff like that. And I've noticed, because I do look at retailers as well, just like what EA said, and I've noticed there is inconsistencies with temperatures, not massive ones, but there is inconsistencies with temperatures and humidity requirements and stuff like that. So yes, look at retailers, but like Sid said, take it with a pinch of salt.
This is one of those things that's really interesting to me as well, because if you observe your colonies, they are going to tell you what they need and what they want. So I know that we have an open source initiative for different formicariums and nests that we're building, and containment systems and things like that. But one of the things that you learn real quick when you think about designing a nest, and maybe it's a little bit further away from the beginners, but it is something you can certainly see, that if your nest has both temperature and humidity gradients within that nest, where your ants actually bring their brood, or where they're staying, or where they're at, will tell you what they want. So if you know the bottom of your nest is the most humid and the top of your nest is the most warm, and they're in the middle, you can tweak and play with that a little bit, just even with turn down the heat pad. If they start to go down to the bottom where it's warmer again, they like that warmer temperature. Same thing with the humidity. You gotta really look at your ants, and just because something is on YouTube or on a wiki somewhere, or even some old scientific papers, one of the best sources for ants in Ohio is an old scientific paper from the 70s. There's a lot of good information in there, but that's from the 70s, and it's very, very different. And I think you can learn a lot just by observing your ants.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm gonna jump in. I think there's great feedback that has been said, and I just want to tie down with something we mentioned yesterday. Observing your species in their natural environment, right? Paying attention. So I want to go back to that observing. So what would I say to myself if I write a letter for me back at the beginning? Well, pay attention, observe, learn, and you're gonna make mistakes, and it's gonna be okay, right? So you have to make some of those mistakes actually to learn. So the only thing that I would change is to just tell myself all of this is going to happen no matter what, but observe so you can learn from that. And the other thing about, okay, but how do you actually do it, right? Like, how do we really not stress the colony? One of the things that I would say to myself is everything with moderation, and starting low is better than overdoing it. So for example, with a nest, so many brands, right? So many nests, and all of them made with similar materials or different materials. That doesn't mean they all work the same. So if, I don't know, Campanados is a 20% humidity species, let's just put a number to it, right? Does that mean that that number is going to work equally across all the different brands out there? No. So you need to find out what works for that nest and that combination of species. And it's better to start little with water, for example, rather than saturating the water chamber with water in 2 days, just because you don't know if you put enough, right? So I would tell myself, just start low and observe, and then go gradual. I think that will help me a lot.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Cool. So yeah, folks, we're gonna go into the break, and we're gonna go into the promos. Wakushi, why don't you go ahead and go first and tell the audience about the promo for the rest of the week, or for the rest of this episode. Hello? You guys hear me?
Yeah, he's dead.
I'll let poor Mara go first then.
Yeah, so we are giving 10% off anyone that uses the promo code Formicast10. Sorry, not anyone. We gave 5 yesterday. We're giving another 5 today. So the 5 there's 5 customers that use the promo code Formicast10 will receive 10% off their purchase.
Awesome. How did that go? How did that go yesterday? We had a lot of people experience that, or
Yeah, I believe we used all 5, so that's why we're adding another 5.
And so people missed the recording and they didn't hear it. So I'm curious if we can post it as well on social media, or
Yep.
maybe not.
Mm-hmm.
It's up to you.
Yeah, I put it in the chat, but you guys could post it if you got, or you could do that too. All right, Wakushi, what about you? What do you got going on for the promo?
Yeah, sorry, I left the mute on for that one. Yeah, so 15% running across the store on everything. I've actually decided to extend it until Friday rather than just running it over the weekend, just to make it, because I know that a lot of people may re-listen to this show during the week, much like I do when there's various podcasts and things. So just to kind of open that Formicast code to the later listeners, that'll be running up until Friday. So code Formicast will get you 15% discount across the store.
Sweet, that is awesome. All right. All right, cool. Let's see. So we have some questions that have been prepared by the community, which we had a lot yesterday, and I had to cut it in half because of how many questions there were. So part 2. One question. So I was reading these questions. I'm like, I know exactly who wrote this question. So is it ethical to raise 2 different colonies and make them fight?
What a ridiculous idea to ever even contemplate such a thing. I'm really dead against this because I put a lot of time and effort, as I'm sure everybody here does, into raising their colonies. And the last thing that I want to do is then pitch them in a battle. And obviously it goes very much with EA's movement, shall we say. Not a bowel movement, the one, the hashtag...
we don't approve.
We don't approve, yeah. Sorry, I'm brain farting constantly today. I just can't speak English. So, yes. So it's very much of that. And there's no real reason other than for your own sick entertainment or for views and likes and subscribes, which I'd never do that to chase it. Would you ever want 2 pets that you care and look after to fight to the death? What is the point? I just don't get it.
Yep.
I mean, saying that on a slight tangent, I have got slave makers. So I am growing some donor colonies to give them, but I'm only going to be giving them a couple of pupae off each colony rather than absolutely letting them go there and raid and destroy that colony itself. So I am harvesting, as it were, but I'm not doing it to be a detriment to my own colony. But I still do care and love. That's my point of view, anyway.
Yep, I totally agree
Now,
with
I totally agree with Hood as well. Why would you do that with your own pets? But I did have a multi-queen colony that split in my aquarium and became two separate colonies and would constantly fight, basically until one colony was gone. So I guess I kind of have seen it unintentionally.
But as an observer, I would not blame you for that, because you've put them in an environment where they thrive to the point of where they split in half, and then you can't then just pick a colony up and move it. You're gonna have to sit there and watch it happen. I guess is technically what happens, but that's not your fault though, and I wouldn't blame you for that.
Exactly, and it did make for some good content on Instagram and Facebook though. So there was people who enjoyed it.
Yeah. But a lot of the people when they're looking into keeping ants as pets, normally they go to people like Ants Canada, or like I've seen YouTube videos of YouTubers who will make ants in the wild fight each other, like just for the hell of it. But yeah, I agree. I think it is unethical to, because one of my friends actually asked me, he's like, "Oh, do you like make your ants fight against each other?" I'm like, "No, that's like super unethical. Like, why would you do that? Like, why would you make your pets fight?"
Do you make your dogs fight? Do you make your dogs fight each other?
Yeah, I definitely don't do that. Like, why would you do that? But anyway,
I also feel like this question is a little bit targeted towards one content creator who did this, of course. Like he had two of his captive colonies fight each other in the "I started an ant war" video. I think that's where the question came from. But
Who's
yeah,
that?
it's definitely yeah, Ants Canada, of course.
Ants Canada.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, I think the big problem with it is for like maybe for scientific reasons you could get away with it, but then yeah, it's in the eyes of the "we don't approve" movement, the showing of it, of course, spreads the wrong message, and people think it will be normal for your ants go to war. And how many times I read comments where it just says, "Let your ants go to war, let your ants go to war." So yeah, it's
right.
sad.
Which type of enclosure is better, a foricarium or a natural setup?
Eye of the beholder. It's kind of up to whatever you want. If you want to see your ants grow and see the stages that they go through, be able to see the queens, then you're going to want to stick to a formicarium. But I personally love the natural setup. I love the plants growing, seeing the ants kind of do their own thing in as much of a natural habitat as possible. So I throw them in a tank and try and encourage them to nest on the side with some heating pads or some good medium.
Yeah, like I don't know which ones of my ants I could do natural setups. I'm sure like most of them I could do that. But the current like setup that I have is too small. I've like thought about like when some of these species I have start to get bigger to put at least one of them into a natural setup. And you can like there's content creators who do a lot of natural setup stuff. Antscapes does a really good job too. If anybody's interested in checking out his stuff, does anybody else want to comment on that?
Yeah, it's to me, it's very much individual choice. I mean, some species you might not necessarily have a choice if they need to be natural or not. But like Polyacus, for example, they do much better in a natural setup over an artificial setup. But I've got a point where I like to see what's going on in the nest, especially if it's an interesting species. If it's a natural setup, I can't see that. I've not done a video of my polys for ages because there's not a lot to show on the surface per se, and I'm missing all the interesting stuff with the weaving because it's in the nest. So it's very much that. It's 50-50. What do you want? Do you want it to be nice and natural, which is low maintenance when it's in a natural setup, or do you want to be able to observe everything going on? And I am nosy. I like to observe everything that's going on. I like to see the brood getting tended to, feeding the brood, and the different stages, how they organise the nest. I love all that stuff. So I tend to go towards more artificial.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to second that with both Dave and Hood. More artificial, so I can see what's going on. That's why I'm an ant keeper. I kind of want to see what's going on. But again, observe your ants, listen to them, see what they want. A natural setup will give you more opportunities to do that, and they can choose where they want to go and what's important to them. But if you're able to recreate that in a non-natural setup, then you're going to be able to really appreciate your ants and what they're doing inside their nest a lot more.
Yeah. Next question is, what is your favorite species that you currently own?
Well, I've just filmed my slave makers, and that video should be going live tonight in case anyone wants to watch it. So, as we've said before, my favorite is that I'm filming on for my next video because I spend so much time watching them, and so I'm very fickle. But definitely my slave makers at the moment. But of an overall arc, I would probably say I'm really taken with my my Fidoli noders at the moment because they're super interesting and super huge. I'm shutting up. There's too many, but slave makers at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm super particular with the winter ants. I've always enjoyed that species and just never been able to keep a colony alive. So that's always been my challenge.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also on the same line as Dave here again. I'm a winter ant fella. I dig them. They're one of my first ones that I ever kept, but they're also one of the most interesting ones that I keep in our local habitat here. So it's really, really neat seeing the repletes do their work. It's a very common ant here in the northern part of the U.S. and up into Canada, but it is a very short window to collect queens, so it becomes a little bit more rare because of that.
Yeah, one of the guys here in Michigan on the what Discord is that again? The AAK Discord in our Michigan channel. He had caught like a bunch of carpenter ants and a winter ant, and he was wanting, I think, either one of my Lasius or one of my Chromatogaster, and we're planning on trading a couple of each other's colonies, small little colonies that we got. I was like, dude, I definitely want that winter ant when she starts to have workers. But yeah, it's pretty exciting. Is there...
And I think I think I should mention as well that when we're talking about, I said the word replete. This is a beginner's podcast episode specifically. The word replete basically means they act like a honey jar, for lack of a better term, for the rest of their colony, and they fill up their butt or their gaster full of liquids to support the colony. So what they do is they essentially attach themselves inside the nest, and other ants will bring liquid to them, and they'll fill up their gaster and just kind of be there. And that's what kind of unique about the false honeypot ants, which is kind of the play off of the Mexican version, the Mexicanist version of the honeypot, the true honeypot ant.
Yeah. Is there any ant species you guys detest or do not like whatsoever?
Small, tiny ants are so tough to keep. I have some Solenopsis molestus, I think is how you say it. They are also known as thief ants. They capture, kill, and eat larvae of other ants. I have one, but they're so hard to keep. They even escape out of the craziest, smallest holes. So they're a little bit sneaky, but I would not recommend keeping a colony of them if you're not into ants big time.
Yep, for sure. Anybody else want to touch on any ants they do not like whatsoever?
I don't like fire ants.
I was gonna
said it yesterday. I'll say it again today. They are not allowed in my house. Nope.
I was gonna say I wanted to keep fire ants, but then I saw JB's video, and I was like, "Yeah, nope, that happening." I do like them.
I'm still yet to find the perfect solution.
Oh man, you should just build a shed and keep them in a shed.
I just recently have a great problem with Formica fusca, which I still need to introduce. But every time I open the test tube, they all just run out. Like with 80 miles an hour, and every time I need to pick up workers from the floor, it's really annoying. Only colony I ever had that problem, but
Yeah, they're super.
Yeah,
skinny.
but the test tube is the wrong size. Well, it came in a very, very like narrow test tube, which is a problem. But I'll guess I'll have to try something because feeding them is just impossible.
I find that Formica are very skittish anyway.
Yeah.
And if you disturb them, they do bomb all everywhere, like somebody's dropped a fart in the test tube.
Mhm.
They go they just leg it. So, but I would definitely recommend. Well, you've got a 3D printer, mate. Just print an adapter so you can put a little outworld on it because it doesn't stress the queens out per se when you're feeding them.
Yep.
Youngest for Start again. Words are hard. Words are very hard.
Are you drinking?
No, I'm not. That's the problem. I've not had a beer today or whiskey, so I'm just not myself.
Oh man.
No, attach a little outworld so you can feed if they've got workers, so they can feed them. You can feed them without disturbing the queens, so they've got the best chance of being unstressed. Lay loads of eggs. So for beginners, I'll definitely advise that as well.
Yeah,
Going back,
so I'm not the only one having the problem with Formica Fusca. Yeah, they say they are like stress level Master Barbarous, but then times
Nah,
two.
They're worse. Yeah, they're much worse than Barbarous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a few Formicas now, obviously because I've been building up my colonies for my slave makers. Have I mentioned my slave makers? I don't think I have yet, have I? But
yes,
every last one
times.
of them that I've got, yeah, I was being facetious. Every colony that I've got of the Formicas, they're all just super skitty and slightest vibration, and they're running like bats out of hell.
Yeah. What ant shop would you suggest for a beginner, and what ant shop would you suggest for an expert? You're not allowed to say your own shop. That was the question.
Like the diamond. Our good friends down below in the list, four more, helped me out from the start of my journey and have continued to do so on many fronts. I want to give a shout out to four more.
Aww.
I would agree with Jay as well. I like their stuff, and it always helps when you have someone smart that's running it too, right? So
Yeah,
I would stick with them as well.
I ditto that. Portmore has been great. They've been amazing to partner with.
Guys, you're making me blush.
I'm gonna save a Kushi.
Do you know
No,
what?
there are many green shows. I think
We want to try.
Antlab, Antboy UK,
Yeah.
Okushi, Antstore, Dario Ants
Yes.
definitely shouldn't be forgotten.
Yep.
I actually don't know anything about like Asian stores or anything, but Ant Keeping Depot definitely a big one. But they are we talking about like getting
multi-brand.
personalized information or just good shops in general?
Just good shops in general. Yeah, I most of my stuff either comes from Portmore Art. I got a couple things from Utah Ant Shop, but I kind of like filtered a lot of stuff that I got from him in the beginning, and a lot of stuff has been updating of what I have. Like I even got stuff from you, Aesthetic Ants, like your test tube portal and your in that small nest, which I got it attached to the test tube portal is connected with my Formica species, so they can get their food from that. But then I also ordered a whole bunch of like stuff from Tar Heel Ants, and I'm looking forward to getting some stuff from Rikuchi. So, yeah.
I've always wanted to buy some stuff.
The thing is that, sorry, and just one sec. The funny thing is that when I got started, I actually, and I still want to try everybody's stuff. And it's pretty much, we're in a tough situation when I got started. My daughter is the one who gets me into the hobby original. And I have all this free time, not so much money. And I tell people I can build this for you. I wanted to do this when I was little. I didn't have the opportunity. So I wanted to buy all of you guys stuff because I went shopping for it and I realized I have the time, I have the skills, I want to engineer it. And that's really what got me into it, just providing the opportunity to my kids. And I still want to try all this stuff. I think everybody has great ideas, great items. I just wish I had the time and the resources to go and buy everybody's stuff at the same time.
Yep.
Hopefully soon.
Yep. So,
See,
go ahead.
You got a discount at Ants Ontario. All you got to do is call, brother.
I'm really fickle when it comes to shops, to be honest. I generally look around to see what I like. At the moment, I'm generally gravitating towards Wakushi, not because I feel bad because I slated his Venus Nest. Hashtag not changing my mind on that one.
Hashtag you have 4 of them now.
Shut up. Yeah, so I'm very fickle, but generally speaking, I'm gravitating towards Kukushi at the moment. But I find that the more experienced rank keeper you get, the more adventurous you get your setup. So you'll be more likely to do a more naturalistic setup. So you wouldn't necessarily go to a conventional retailer for a point as well.
Right. The next question I got is, who is your best ant friend?
Well, it's got to be my bromance, isn't it?
I was gonna say JB. Like, he's my co-host.
No. Never.
I don't think that's very like beginner guide to ant keeping question, but I thought that was an interesting question. Like when it comes to your fellow ant keeper, who is like someone that you're constantly like sending messages to or like asking for advice? Because I constantly am messaging aesthetic ants a lot, just like asking random questions, or like we just talk a lot. Same what happens with Antscapes. Like Ryan and I play a lot of Call of Duty together, and I've been playing quite a lot of War of Rights with JB lately too. So it's like you tend to like become really close friends with other ant keepers and end up like your lives become intertwined and just like share experiences and stuff. I think it's pretty cool. So yeah, ant keeping is not only about the ants; it's about the community.
No.
So
I definitely have an interesting
110%
story.
community makes it.
Go ahead.
Go on.
I definitely have some interesting story about that because, yeah, I invest a lot of time, which I love, into especially into Discord, talking to people, which you all know probably. And actually, I just recently visited. You know her as Nino Turu. She lives in the Netherlands. I visited her. I checked out her collection. We worked on a cool assignment together, and it was lovely. It was like we met via Discord and via the ant keeping hobby, and then to actually see each other in real life as friends. It's just amazing how that can happen. And I'm throwing a little party, and like 4 or 5 ant keepers from Netherlands and from Belgium are coming. So yeah, that's very cool. Like yeah.
Yeah, that's
very
awesome.
cool that this community allows it to make friends just purely based on your passion and hobby and not about race, gender, or whatever.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's awesome about this community as well.
I agree.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic because that's that really is why we started. When I really started the Ohio Ads community, it was because I wanted local, like truly local people to me, so that we could have that interaction with those around us. Right. It has a little bit to do with make sure that our species are similar and we understand when flights are happening, and even though flights can be hyper local, even being able to say, oh, you're only an hour away, we can trade ants, we can talk about it, we can go hunt for ants. That's a huge portion of our community, and I think that especially a lot of the big servers have a harder time kind of segregating those people into smaller areas, and it's one of the benefits of having a very regional specific community to work with.
Yeah, I'm trying to like focus that on like the Michigan residents, because there's like a Facebook group for like Michigan ant keepers, but it isn't as like active as I wish it was, and a lot of people from like Asia have like just been posting on it. I'm like, wait, isn't this for like Michigan though? So like that's the whole point of doing a Michigan ant together here in September, which I'm really looking forward to that. But yeah, I really like that. There's people in each state, especially here in the U.S., that are doing stuff like that. So yeah, ant keeping is not only about the ants; you also have the community behind it, and that's why we're growing so quickly, which I think is great too. Let's see. What do you do if your nest is too hard or heavy to move, but it is suggested you hibernate them? Do you hibernate them in this case?
I want to know the answer to this one because I got that issue.
I was going to say the same thing because my pogos, I'm thinking about setting up a shelf and putting them on a shelf somewhere. So that's a good question.
I have a huge 20-gallon tank, and I don't know what to do with it because it is heavy.
So I saw someone on Facebook who has their whole basement packed with ants and mostly natural setups and stuff like that. And this question, they were asked this question, and he actually cools his whole basement and leaves the window open during the winter. In Canada.
Yeah, that's Corey Lewis.
Yes,
Yep.
Corey Lewis, that's right. And then so I guess that's how you would do it. We don't have that
Well, I mean,
problem.
Corey is very experienced, so I can see that as a
Mhm.
not a complicated solution, but it does all of the colonies at once, right? For the quantity of colonies that he has, I think that's very smart and more efficient than
Yeah.
trying to put all of them in a fridge. Yeah.
Yeah, but by the way, Dave has a beautiful setup. Like it's gorgeous. I love it.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay. Before we go on to this next question, I just want to say for the people that are watching on the YouTube, so we got a couple more questions that have been written ahead of time. As soon as we finish those, we're gonna actually open up the channel so that you guys that are watching on YouTube can hop into voice chat with us and actually ask your questions live. So if you guys just hang in there, I posted the Discord in the actual chat. Hop in the waiting room as soon as you get in, and just be patient. We'll be opening it up here in a couple minutes. All right. So the next question we got is, what is your favorite thing to do to wild ant colonies?
Look at them.
Yeah, see, I photograph wild ant colonies. One of my favorite things to do, and interact and see what they do. You can get some really cool information about the colonies that you're looking at, especially if they're local species you keep. But two, they are just fascinating across the board.
Nice. Yeah, the carpenter ant colony that was in the backyard that my roommate he decided to cut the whole tree down because he got upset that the carpenter ants got into the tree. Um, so I'm actually planning on going back there after this episode and getting a liquid feeder with Biformica sunburst nectar and placing it down and just like observing them and watching them like drink the nectar and stuff. It's gonna be so sweet to watch them do that. So I'm gonna probably record that and publish it on social media so you guys can see that. Um,
We have a couple gentlemen, we partner with the Ohio State University on some projects that we're working on. We have some myrmecologists that are either post-grad or in graduate school working with them. And one of the things they really encourage ant keepers to do is to keep a small journal. Understand what ants are doing in that local vicinity. Actually keep a journal on it. If you're able to identify that ant and write down a few facts about it, you can start to build a story around that that's actually beneficial for educational use or for scientific study, because we don't have we have a lot of great myrmecologists in the US, a lot of great people who are really interested in it, but as Miles Maxer talked about, there's just not that many of them compared to how much knowledge there is to gain out there. So the more information that you can get, even collect on your own, that can be a huge benefit to the educational and scientific community as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. Anybody else? Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, a good thing to do for sort of outdoor species. Ryan from Antscapes actually did a really cool video recently where he did a test to see which species he had in his garden by placing down jelly pots and leaving them and coming back to them and discovering that he had European fire ants and things in his garden. I thought that was quite cool because, I've recently found a few different species, probably because I know what I'm looking for now in my actual garden. So I think one of the cool things you can do is just put down little feeders and just kind of get a bit more of an idea of what species are around.
Yeah. Sweet. All right. So let's see. I already asked that question. What do you think? What do you think about your first video that you've done, especially for those who are content creators?
My first video was actually with my daughter for school about ants, and then I believe my second one was making protein jelly.
Yeah.
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 And I think they were bad. They were bad. But definitely something we need to work on. Not necessarily work on quality wise, but I feel like maybe do more frequently. It's just we have so much going on that it's so hard to keep a schedule, and maybe that's some advice that we could get from some of you guys is how do you do it? But yeah, they weren't bad.
I remember my first episode that I did on the Labor Day ant. Like, cause for me, podcasts, like I've been doing this for, I don't know, like a little over than a year, doing podcasts in general, but it's always been like on like video game stuff, or it's been like doing it with someone else. But then when I got into ant keeping, I was like, okay, I have the skill and I have like I know how to prepare the show notes. Like yesterday we were talking in the chat after the show was done, and like I shared a video from Jibs from Lore Seekers, which is a Elder Scrolls podcast, and basically just like he gives you like tips and tricks on like what you should do, like for those who are interested, for example, in doing a podcast or doing some type of content creation. Like you got to make sure you're like, one thing he was talking about was make sure that you get your episode or your thing out on time, because people are going to be expecting for content on a certain day. Like make sure you're not late, make sure you're organized, make sure you have your show notes, you have your script ready. Like take it serious, but at the same time it's like don't take it too serious. So anybody else want to chime in on like their first video or anything like that?
I wouldn't know how bad my first videos are because I hate watching myself when I do my videos again.
Well,
hate it.
I do like
I'm
her.
the same with mine.
Yeah, I do like your guys' intros though. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was the bromance thing again. Thank you, JB.
All right, let's move on to the next question. If you only had one option to choose between test tubes or ant nests, what would it be? From founding queen to mature colony.
I would go test tubes all day, every day for founding a colony, 100%.
I'm test tubes as well. Yeah.
But if you can get a test tube insert, which I have yet to get, they definitely help out immensely, especially on species that need to bury their larvae or anything along those lines.
More can help you.
Shameless plug.
Yes, they
More.
can.
It's
Just I'll
also
be
a
shameless.
hard lesson I learned, I think, in how greatly important, well, not important, but how beneficial test tube inserts can be. Definitely in feeding your ants in a test tube. That's just so much easier if there's a tiny wall separating the part where you're taking off the cotton and then the part where the queen is resting.
Right.
So definitely recommend them for all beginners, and you can make them yourself very easily. So yeah, definitely do some research to that on YouTube.
Yeah.
And yeah, make one yourself because it's great
Right.
for your ants.
If you guys haven't listened or watched the episode we did with Miles Maxer, he actually talks about test tubes versus founding nests, because like he was talking about how his scientific hat would be don't use test tubes, use founding nests, and then his ant keeping hat would be test tubes are okay. Like, so I mean it depends. Like for me personally, yeah, I'll start with a test tube, but then when they get where I feel like they need some type of founding nest, pour more art and Tar Heel ants. Definitely have supplies for that, especially like depending on where you live. Especially like I'm sure Wakushi also has founding stuff as well. So yeah, definitely reach out to those great people if you need help with that. What is their most enjoyable activity of running their ant stores? Wait, is this for everyone? Yeah. What is their most enjoyable activity of running their ant stores on a daily basis, and what would their future dream for their stores be? I guess that's for the stores.
I love interacting with the customers, honestly. The questions and stuff and being able to answer them and help them out, that's always the most rewarding. Like I said at the beginning, though, we are still very small with not much to offer yet, but that's definitely my favorite part. And I hope to see in the future that we could be larger and maybe sponsor a podcast or something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
That would be our future goal for sure.
Yeah, I would definitely love to bring you guys on again and do an actual interview about how you guys got started and everything. Keep you guys in the loop for that.
For me is packing packages. I actually really like packing packages, especially using a lot of tape and then sending to Dirka so that he struggles with opening his packages. Actually, since that since that boxing video that you did,
Yeah.
I laid I laid off the tape. So you should be proud of me. But I like including little things like thank you stickers
Yep.
and now I've included our logo on boxes and
Yep.
the bags and that kind of stuff. So I it's just a little extra care that I put into the packages. I try to make sure that I'm not being mean. Um, well, to Durka maybe? Yeah, I guess. Yeah, so putting a little extra detail into my packages, I really enjoy doing that. I also like helping out people that are getting started. So we often get people, we have a chat in our page, and so we often get people that are that say, "Hey, we're just getting started. I'm buying this for my kid. Their birthday is next month. What do I do?" So kind of getting them started and helping them start their ant keeping journey is pretty exciting, and I like doing that. For future plans, hopefully I don't have to work and I can just do this all day long, every day, and that would be great.
Yeah. All right. We have a question for Rakushi, actually. For Rakushi, over the last year, what has been their most challenging part of creating their new Weaver ant nest, and how did they manage to overcome it?
Um, the whole thing from the start was tricky because um, it's it was. I mean, obviously, Outworlds are Outworlds, and it's just studying and doing a lot of research and seeing kind of what's out there and what works and what doesn't work. I think the hardest part with it is knowing where to stop and it kind of just getting that balance of the cost of the product for the customer down as low as possible to make it affordable. So I think that that balancing act of getting the price at the right level and then getting as much features into it as possible. I like to try and make things versatile. So just having the option to be able to connect and make things modular just really helps with that. Having the pillar support so you can put the different accessories in there so you can kind of customize every single outworld, making just ant keeping as easy as possible. And I think that the challenging part is yeah, it's just knowing when to stop and when to kind of say, well, that is the point where it's at its best point.
Sweet. So a lot of some of the next questions that are in there have already been kind of answered. So we're gonna move on to the next one. Looking back at mistakes while ant keeping, what would say their biggest mistakes have been to guide new ant keepers to stop them from making the same mistakes?
For me, hands down, it's ants need humidity. They need water. I have lost so many ant colonies to lack of humidity and lack of water. And I think part of it is, you get used to not really paying attention to your ants because you don't want to stress them out or you don't want to do anything, and you get busy on other things and you go back, you're like, oh crap. So I think that for me, humidity and water is so important, and it can turn, from one day to the next day if you're not prepared for that.
Yeah. I would say for me it's the water thing too. At times you forget to drink water yourself, so it's like, oh crap, wait, they need the same thing we do. Yeah, it's a very important thing, folks. Your ants need the same thing you do. Make sure you're drinking.
I think that's why we commonly see all over the place, in whatever setup, band setup, whoever's posting in a majority of cases, you're gonna see a water source somewhere. So it seems like a general solution or a smart practical solution is to not rely on just one system, but have multiple systems, right? Have 2 or 3 different sources. Again, mistakes happen, right?
Yeah.
Mistakes don't happen. So because mistakes are gonna happen if you have plan A, plan C, that helps. I'm gonna release a nest in a couple of weeks now that has 5 water sources, different, all separate from each other. And again, I probably we're completely overdoing it, but the the whole point here with that nest is that you can migrate from one section to humidity or control humidity in customized way. But it's all in the essence experience you being able to test experiments, see what they like, what area they don't,
Yeah.
and so on. So yeah, have options. That's my choice on humidity and having ants not die from lack of it.
Yeah. Speaking of water and humidity and stuff, so the 10 by 10 nests I got from you guys, Portmore. So I went and I I put water in there, the little area where you put the water in, and like you could tell like it started getting like the humidity and everything, and like I noticed that my pogos took like some of the gravel that they had, and they like put it so that it's like sticking to the glass, and I'm like, huh, that's very interesting. So I don't know the reason they're doing that, but like they act different depending on the like atmosphere of their nest and their living spaces. So
Yeah.
In the YouTube chat, Ant Dorks actually brought up a really great point. Having humidity and having drinking water are two different things. Not all species need drinking water, for lack of a better term, but they still do need humidity. So I think when Portmore's talking about multiple sources, that's a huge portion of it. Don't forget it, and be specific to your species as well. If you're not sure, give them drinking and humidity.
yeah,
And in the case of the classic that you're mentioning, the ants putting the pebbles, like is this between the glass and the water wall or somewhere else?
it's literally like up against the glass. Afterwards, I'll show you guys what it looks like. But they like right underneath the glass, between like where if you take the red film off and you look down, if you're trying to observe them, like they just put gravel like all over it. I'm like, okay, so
That makes sense. Yeah, I mean, glass itself is slippery, and if ants are finding that area comfortable and they're gonna start building something for whatever purpose they want,
yeah,
they're gonna do whatever they want to do with that environment. Yeah.
yeah. Pogans are very interesting and fun species to keep. Let's see. What is something that excites you guys about ant keeping?
The fact that it's growing, like in the last 5 years that I've been actively kind of keeping, it's boomed. Like I remember first telling people about it, and everybody was like, "You're weird." And then now, like you tell somebody about it, and they're like interested and intrigued, and they have 100 questions, and then they want to come and see what you got and see your setup. And yeah, I think that's the coolest part right now for me, is that it's the growth.
Oh yeah,
How fast this community is growing.
for sure.
Agree with that. When we're looking at we had that Nat Geo article that's just recently released about ant keeping, and we had several community members, be involved in that article from photos. We had one from Ohio Ants, a mad biologist who's on the ants and ant keeping forum as well. He had a photo put in that. That's a really great way to not only bolster the community, like I said, of pulling a lot of people into that community, but man, the growth has been exponential, and it's just all over the place, and it's fun to be part of, especially for those people that have been in the hobby for a little while. And as Dave mentioned, it's straight up. People used to act like you're a total weirdo looking at the ground. Even my family's all into it, for lack of a better term. My wife's not quite there yet, but she at least deals with me finding ants and looking at ants. But to have kids that are more than willing to pick up ants, talk about them and what they are, it's huge, and it's a really good learning experience. And I think it built a lot of character in your children and the people that you're working around in the community as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I got the article up actually on the YouTube. It's a really cool article. I'm not sure if everybody has read it yet. I'm still trying to read it all. There's a whole lot there to read, so definitely check it out. I'll put the link in the show notes for those who have not read it yet. Let's see. What makes ant keeping content engaging?
I think it's when I do my content videos, I really get involved with my ants, as it were, because I'm filming them and I'm only using their phone, so it's not as if I can set up a camera tripod and leave them to it, as it were. So I do really get involved in filming them, and then you pick up the personalities of the comedies, what they like, dislikes, and stuff like that. And that's what I really enjoy about making videos and doing content creating is the interaction I get with my ants. Because I think it improves the interaction. It improves my enjoyment out of it. And not only that though, I can talk rubbish about ants and people actually want to listen. Unlike with my jobs, people are just like, "What? Shut up."
Okay, we
But
got
like engaging with the viewer or engaging while you're filming yourself. Don't get it, the question.
Yeah.
Like what makes it engaging to the viewer? Is that the
Yes.
question?
Yes, that's the question.
Ah,
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought you meant for the creator.
Yeah.
So, that's why I answered that question that way. Sorry. Now I sound like a narcissist.
I think that it's a good question, but it's a very hard question because it's all about the people you want to target.
Yeah.
Because Ants Canada's content is very engaging, only not to us, but to a majority of people, it's very engaging.
Right.
I think if you really want to make it engaging, like what I see with the videos that do well and the videos that don't do well, like I did a video recently about what I thought was a very good video about explaining difficult ant terms,
Right.
all research and stuff, which was very interesting. I think everyone had seen it, but then that video does very bad. And then when I accidentally dropped my not accidentally, dropped my Campanodus, Lignipura Queen in a mini outworld and they escape. Of course, that gets views, so that's engaging then.
Yeah.
But sadly, sensation always works. That's engaging, and in this hobby, not much happens usually with the ants, unless you're moving them every week. But yeah,
Right.
it's very hard to make it engaging. I always think, in my personal perspective, if you show the ants in as many ways possible, although they're doing the same thing, but if you just mix it up and use a lot of variation in your filming and getting, then it gets really interesting and not boring, because that's usually what I have when you see 2 minutes of the same shots of the ants or something. What a lot of new YouTubers do, then just gets boring really quick. But if you then mix it up with like 4 or 5 shots, that gets a lot more engaging. At least that's what I think. But yeah, it's still the $1 million question: how do you make your content interesting for as many people as possible?
Yeah, it's probably a better way to.
If I can chime in, I just want to tell EA. I think one of the things that helps, like he said, different camera angles and whatnot. Macro. If you can get a good macro set up, I have found that almost all content that includes a really close-up view seems to bring the viewer closer to the subject, right? So, for instance, I'll use Pormore again. He's a trained photographer, so he has a bit of a leg up on some of us. But some of the shots he takes, the lighting and the clarity, and then macro. I mean, those are the things I think you should focus on when you first start out.
Yeah, yes and no, because if you look at Ansud is a perfect example. Just has very like basic filming equipment, just his phone, and then he has some pop-up macro lens, and he still makes relatively enjoyable content. And I don't watch that many YouTubers, and I watch his videos always, so I think that's very enjoyable. But that's also his personality, of course, which plays a huge part. But a lot of people say, "Oh, I need this good lens, I need this good camera." Well, for me, I don't actually have a macro lens. It's a portrait lens, and I still manage to make, I guess, somewhat okay videos. So you don't need the best gear. Of course, it helps. Like the shots and all of us making are just insane. But yeah, it's something for along the line, because a camera is very expensive. So don't get discouraged if you want to make content. You can with any equipment, but definitely helps if you have good equipment. I know that's
Just
not
to add to
entirely
that.
what you're meaning, but
I don't think. Yeah, my point wasn't to have like top end. It was just important to have a few basic things, which was lighting and a macro of some sort. I find tends to give us all a better, clearer view of the subject.
Right.
And I want to compliment to what you both are saying, because I agree with both. So yeah, good equipment will help, but it's not required. Absolutely not. I also like to use my phone. No, nothing fancy, just my phone. Right?
Yep.
It's my phone, and a clip lens. Again, nothing fancy. I don't even know, and I just know it makes things look bigger. That's what it is. But what I think it's a key factor here at the end of the day, whatever you can have the fanciest equipment and still not have good shots. So I think the one thing that we cannot equation we have to be conscious of is light.
Yep.
No matter what camera, what lens, what you're trying to photograph, at the end of the day, photographing is all about capturing light.
Yep.
So if you have a good light source and you plan your light source accordingly, you will succeed.
And clean your lens.
Clean your lens, yeah. Because then light goes through that dirt. Duh.
Nobody wants a dirty lens.
Exactly. So we got one more question, but before we do, I just want to have a shout out to Eric Gold or Sulior. He was my co-host on the Tenfo podcast and the podcast we did on Nintendo for about a year. He's still doing the show, but he's in chat saying he made it for the end. So everybody here, please say hello to Sulior.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
So, all right. So, last question, which I wonder what this question is about, but it says, what should new ant keepers progress from their species to? I don't really know what that question is about. What should new ant keepers progress from their species to?
Well, I guess, I'm assuming from beginner to intermediate to advanced level.
Yeah.
Like, what suggestion for that? I don't think there's a general path that I would see clearly because it's a very personal decision.
Yeah.
Right? Somebody had already mentioned that some people think small ants are easier to keep, and turns out that that's not necessarily always the case, right? So I think you really have to pay attention to your experience, how you that specific species. Did you had a fast-growing species? Were you okay with that? Do you have a slow but big species, and did you appreciate that? And then once you decide how you're feeling about your current strategy, okay, then what do you feel like doing, and can you accomplish that responsibility, right? Can you care for that specific need? And if the answer is yes, then yeah.
Yeah.
To me, it's more about your current experience, not so much about what others are doing or following a predetermined path.
Yep. For sure.
You've also got to look at it this way as well. In England, you've got such a massive variety of ants you can get because there's little to no regulation about what ants you can and can't keep. Where in America, I understand your laws are a lot more stringent. So when it comes to developing from the beginners onwards, I think area and availability of ants is going to play a massive part in it as well.
Cool. All right, so we're going to get into the open discussion. So for all those who are in waiting room, feel free to pop over to recording. Let me just move Stein over. There we go. All right. So this is the part where the discussion will be open for all those who are interested in hanging out with us and actually asking questions live. There is the Discord that I just posted into the YouTube chat. The only thing you have to do is get into the chat that we're in and keep yourself muted unless you're going to ask one of us a question or all of us a question. So, all right, we'll do this for the next 10 to 15 minutes, and then we're going to go ahead and close the show. Stein, do you have any questions? Does anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, I do have a question. Like, if there is a question that I might know the answer of, or may want to react to, or how you say it, could I answer then, or is it just that I'm here to ask questions?
You can ask as many questions as you'd like.
Okay, let my mind think of some questions.
Well, I have a question for everyone then when Stein is thinking of some.
Okay.
So what I usually see a lot happen is people getting a large niger colony, they get the first queen and workers, and then straight move them into a nest, but not into the small nest they can find, no, into these large nests which are not made for queens at all. And I talked about this before, and then I believe it was Answer who said make sure there's just one smaller chamber, or it was Rakushi, one of the two. make sure there's a small chamber where the queen can stay in. But is there any way we could help beginners understand that you should not move a very small colony into a nest that's too big for them? Because I struggle with explaining people why you shouldn't.
One thing I've been doing on the site, and again, completely experimental, and I'm not saying that I'm right or wrong, like who knows? I just thought when I had the need to create kits, right? Starter kit, advanced kit, medium kit, whatever you want to call it. I actually took the strange decision to only make starter kits and forget about the other kits for now, at least for now. And it's a funny point because that's exactly what I was thinking. I thought if I have more availability kits that are starting and I make an emphasis on this is where you start, you're starting, okay, then look here, right? Maybe that's going to help more people be guided into that option, right? So instead of giving them too many options for starting options, it's like, let me give you 2 basic choices, that's it. You want to start with a little tiny small founding chamber formicarium, or you want to start with a small little tiny desktop setup? That's it. 2 options.
Also, making it clear to your customers that you are more than happy to help them along. So in our website, we have our chat, and it automatically pops up, and people could talk to us that way. We mention that they can email us. We also mentioned that we can set up Zoom meetings and or Google Meets to go over our products or give advice. So I think having your customers know that they can ask you those questions or get some kind of advice or lead them in the right direction. I think that would help as well.
Mm-hmm. Stein, do you have any questions for us, bud? If not,
Yes, I do, but my dad is currently in the room, so I don't want to make too much noise.
Okay.
So I will ask them in a few seconds.
Okay. So Cillier actually have a question for us. He wrote it in chat. It says, if you could move to any part of the world based on the native ant population, where would it be?
Mexico.
Australia for me.
Not only for the temperatures, but I would love to raise a full colony of honeypot ants. I think that they are my dream species.
I would also move to Mexico, yeah. Even though I come from Mexico.
Mine would be an Asian region just because they've got so much variety of ants on your doorstep. And then wait till nuptial flights and you can collect all the cool species that they have. That's my thinking.
I will move to the UK because of its vast native collection of ants.
Yep, I would say probably Australia. If I were to pick a part of the world to live in for ants, it would be Australia.
No one wants to move to Canada? No?
I was gonna say Michigan's
we
just
blame Canada for Mikey Busto, so yeah.
But yeah,
I have a question, but it's more of a favor.
Okay.
If could everybody, is there a spot that we could maybe all link our social medias or something so we could all join each other's? I would love to follow Hood on YouTube and stuff and see you guys' videos and stuff, since I feel like we're a little closer now than we were before.
Yeah, for sure. So here in a minute when we close the episode, I'll just have you guys share where your social media is, and then in the show notes I'll have everybody's socials on there.
Awesome. That'd be great.
Oh. Is it my turn yet?
Yep, go ahead.
So first of all, on the question of where would you move? Why would you move to one country if you could just travel the world, And second, my question was about all the prices of all different kinds of products. Like on Discord, you see Meso Barbus queens getting sold for €3, and in shops they get sold for €15. And you have Ants Australia nest, which is just some acrylic and Yetung that is sold for 45 quid. And then you have a aesthetic ants nest, a small 3D printed nest that sells for 15 quid. Like, all those prices, which ones are the fair ones, you know?
It's all about supply and demand, my friend. All about supply and demand. And also, like I don't have to register yet, so then you have taxes. Like Fukushi, it's his job, so he has to wage in his hourly loan, etc. So those things, and he has of course his machines, and then he needs to pay rent. He has a son, and you have to calculate all that in. So that's where the price differences come from. But I think most of the stuff is decently priced, I guess, for the work that goes into them. I
Right.
think, but the shops need to back me on this.
Yeah,
I would totally agree as well. You got like hydro costs are different in different countries, different places, even different city to city. You got hydro costs that are different. Money is not equal all across the world as well too, right? And also it's whatever's appealing to you. If you think it's beautiful and pretty and like a piece of art that you would put and display in your house, then that would be worth the money to me. I would spend the money on something that is nice and looks good and would work versus buying something that is cheap and gonna fall apart.
Yep.
I guess quality is what matters.
Quality. You got it, bud. Quality.
Yeah, we completely agree. Every country is different. Currencies are different. The cost of material is different. We all have a different way of making our products as well. So some nests might take longer than others, more work than others. So it's really what these guys have said so far.
And I think if we also forget about the whole formality of businesses, I guess this is something that you get to understand when you try to do it yourself.
Yeah.
I actually encourage the DIY perspective, and again, not saying that I'm doing it correctly, but I want my website to provide a lot of DIY tools. So not just the finished product, but hey, if you want to buy some supplies, you don't know where to get these supplies for end keeping, and you need something for your DIY. Okay, well, here are the parts that I use. You can also use them, right? The reason why I also encourage that is because I think when we build and understand how these enclosures work, right? And an enclosure is good not because it's good, it's because also the person who uses that enclosure understands how to use the enclosure. So when you build your own formicarium, you have a more elaborate thought process. Okay, well, this is the mechanics of how I'm gonna use it, and this is why my species. Again, it's not so much if the model itself is good or not, is that relationship of knowledge. So I feel when you go and build and realize how complicated it is and how expensive it is to buy all these materials, it gets a little bit easier. And okay, well, I'm going to spend 40, 50, $20, whatever it is, okay, this is worth it because it's going to save me time. And these people are putting the required efforts and skills to be dependable and giving you the same product over and over, right?
Right.
And if you don't like that, that's something that I completely understand, right? And I respect, and this is why also doing it yourself is the recommended way then.
Yep. All right, folks. Well, we're going to go ahead and end this episode. But what? Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Stein.
I have one last question.
All right.
If you could choose between a really, really cute ant or a really, really aggressive species of ants, which species would you choose?
That's a good question.
That's a good question.
For me, I would go with the cute species, mostly because my kids are interested, and I'm trying to teach them. We use ants to teach my kids all sorts of things, taking care of small creatures, circle of life, etc. So for me, it would be the aesthetically pleasing and the cute, air quote, species.
Yep, I agree.
I would agree on that one.
Me too. I
To
agree
get
with that.
somebody hooked on ants if they're aggressive and you're like, ooh, why would you want to keep that?
Right.
Yeah, from just, like my other answer to the other question at the beginning, I don't like fire ants, so I guess cute.
Yep.
It just has to be photogenic. If
Yeah,
it's photogenic, I want it.
they need
Yep.
to they need to do the hair flip.
Yep. You got to be a Pokemon trainer when it comes to ants. You got to catch them all, you know.
Yeah.
Yep. But all right, folks. So we're gonna go ahead and end this episode. But before we do, where can we find you? We'll start with Ants Ontario.
Our main source right now would probably be ants.ontario on Instagram. Our Facebook group, we kind of have it closed off to just Ontario because we would like people in Ontario to kind of share flight times and all that kind of stuff just amongst us in the area. Not that we don't want everybody to join, but that's kind of our area of expertise. But there is also Ants Canada site and other spots like that for people to join on Facebook.
Yep. Ohio Ants.
Yeah, you can find us at ohioants.com, Ohio Ants on Instagram, Ohio Ants on Facebook. It's all around. Again, we're a community mostly located in Ohio. We do kind of cater towards basically northern and anything east of the Rockies. We have a lot of people in our community on Discord that are in those areas too. And again, it comes down to very similar species, and we're talking about the same thing and we're interacting the same way. But I would say 80% of our members are all Ohio people. So thank you.
Yep. Aesthetic Ants.
You can find me on Static Ants everywhere. YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Pinterest even. Instagram, just Aesthetic Ants or Aesthetic, and you'll find me.
Okay. Hood.
Sorry, didn't unmute. Yes, obviously I'm a YouTuber, so you can find me on YouTube, Ants Hood. I'm on Instagram with Ants Hood as well, and Facebook group which is Ants Hood. There's a trend there, I think.
Yep. And pour more art.
You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and creeping Discord. All these groups. We don't have one of our own, but we creep everybody else's. Pour more art.
And I realized yesterday you guys also do cakes. I'm gonna have to order a cake.
We do cakes. Yes, you're gonna have to pick them up though, because I'm not gonna deliver that one. We also do photo sessions.
Nice.
We photograph ants and families.
Nice. JB. Wakushi.
Wakushi.com, main place, and pretty much any of the socials, Instagram, Discord even these days. So it's nice to see that's being used a lot more by a lot more keepers. So yeah, mainly Wakushi.com.
Yep. And if you want to follow JB, he's got a website. Definitely check that out. It's gonna be in the show notes as well. I think he's currently busy. So yeah, so we have some stuff coming up also here. So this next week is gonna be the break week. So during the season, we're gonna have certain weeks that we'll be taking breaks. This next weekend, I'm going fishing up at Houghton Lake here in Michigan, and I go every year. So I'll be taking that week mainly just to focus on planning the show and trying to get more slots opened, and try to plan the show out as far as I can get it, and also start figuring out the website. I know Mike, we've been talking on the side about that as well. JB is also interested in getting the show up and running, or the website up and running. So that's something I'm going to be working on this week mainly, is looking into the website so that people have one place to go with all the social media on it. On the 19th, we're doing a We Don't Approve episode crossover with the Colonial Antcast, Aesthetic Ants, and Wakushi, mainly focusing on the movement to explain the movement. I'll also be showing the gel ant nest that I got in the mail and basically showing you guys what that looks like. On the 27th, we're doing an interview with Ender Ants. So for those who are listening and watching, head to the Discord, write a question in there for Ender Ants. So we have some weeks ahead of that, so we'll start getting questions. And then at the end of the month, we're doing another Ant Quest on North America to celebrate the 4th of July. Which I didn't realize that I missed the whole entire month of July. I went right to August, so I gotta figure out what we're doing. I'm gonna be interviewing Ants Britannia probably in July, and then we'll be working on some more stuff planned for July. So that's pretty much it for now. I'm glad everybody was able to hang in here with us, and hope you guys enjoyed that panel. But yeah, all right, folks, that's pretty much it. Say goodbye, everyone.
See you. Thanks again for including us in everything. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It was really informative and a lot of fun. Appreciate it.
Yeah, super groovy, guys. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Take care, guys.
See ya.